All right. This is coming from the Radio for One Studios in Franklin, Michigan. This is Comedy or Whatever with Big E, which is me. If you listen to the Detroit Cast podcast, which I'm assuming that most of you, well, no, not necessarily. If you listen, I'm on a podcast called the Detroit Cast 5 days a week, and I'm kind of going by the name of Big E, but I'm just going to call myself Eric because I'm not going to make my guest call me that. That seems ridiculous. Oh, here, sorry, your mic is not on yet. There you go.
Now you can.
I'm
going to call you Big E.
Okay, yeah. Wow, I know. I didn't know. Honestly, I didn't know whether to say that in the intro because I want to call it Comedy or Whatever with Big E, but then I realized these comic friends are going to be like, you know,
you don't want to get shit on.
Right, exactly.
But I mean,
I know, and so now you know that. So anyway, here, my friend, by the way, you're already talking, so I'll introduce you, and then I'll kind of say what I'm going to do with this. My friend is Wesley Ward, the very funny Wesley Ward, first guest on Comedy or Whatever.
Hello.
So I'm sorry.
Hi, not anybody watching.
Right, yeah. There's probably no one watching, but there will be eventually when you post this later. So here's the thing. I've been doing comedy for, about 6 years now, believe it or not. And one of the more fun things I feel in comedy, other than the obvious making people laugh, is just the comics, man. I've met way more friends doing comedy than I ever made in high school or schooling or shit like that. You know what I mean?
That's probably most of us.
Right. Like, dude, I don't know how much you know about it. It's funny. I don't know when I've known you probably the entire, because you've been doing comedy since when?
2010.
So I didn't start comedy until 2011.
Yeah.
So technically, I would have seen you whenever I started doing open mics.
Probably.
But I don't remember when that first time was.
I don't either. Quite frankly, I don't. I mean, I knew you came out to my open mic when I used to run an open mic. That's when you're going by the Eric Fancy.
I know, God.
Eric Fancy boy.
Another embarrassing situation.
I know. You know when I think the first time I remember actually seeing you, there was an open mic that a guy named Sidney Smith ran.
Yep.
In Roseville.
Yeah, totally.
Oh God, was that Grady's?
Yes.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was awful.
Dude, it's so funny. How did you start in comedy? You know what? Actually, let me ask you this first. We have something that's in common that I didn't realize that was in common, and that is that you went to Specs Howard.
Oh yeah, I went to Specs.
When did you go to Specs?
Holy crap! I want to say I went in 2006.
Holy shit, really?
Yeah.
Do you remember, damn, we must have been really close. Dude, I'm telling you, I went the October class of 2005 to June of 2006.
Yeah, we might have been in near the same
we weren't
time.
obviously in the same class.
No.
But really close.
Yeah, I think I went from 06 to 07.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you went to Specs, did you want to do radio? What was your goal when you went to Specs?
It was radio.
Really?
I wanted to do radio. I had listened to a bunch of Detroit radio. Well, the thing was, in the back of my mind, I always wanted to be a stand-up.
Gotcha.
But when you're a kid, you're kind of told you can't do that. You're not going to make money, and the money part was constantly ingrained into me. Like, I have to do stuff to make money.
Wait a minute. This kind of makes me laugh,
right?
Because I don't know how much we've talked a little bit, but again, we don't get to talk too dead on often.
Right.
Usually we see each other. We're just at an open mic, and it's kind of like, hey, how's it going? It's funny to me because I think what you're about to say is that your thought was you wanted to do comedy, but you needed to pay for it, so you were going to try to do radio?
No.
Okay.
No. What I was going to say was I thought probably what I was thinking at the time, because I can't really remember, was that radio would be more easy to digest for my parents than maybe stand-up comedy. Because at least radio, there's a thing you can say I'm doing radio, and they're like,
right,
radio, okay, yeah, people do radio.
That's funny, dude.
But it's yeah, it was really weird. The last class, I remember doing my edit, my final,
your final little demo,
and I remember doing it, and I wasn't bad at it at all. I thought I was pretty good at it. But
I could play you some of my stuff, and it was awful.
But
by the way.
I mean, in terms of getting everything down, like the editing and making sure I hit my times right and everything like that.
Right.
That's all boring bullshit. My point was, I remember sitting there just going, do I really want to do? I remember in my head, I don't want to do this. In my head.
Now, when you're saying you want to do this,
I didn't.
Just not on the radio at all?
It was,
because a radio. There's a difference between being a radio DJ.
I didn't have a love for it. Like, I liked it. I didn't
gotcha.
mind it. I would have done it, but I didn't love it.
Right. And then had you started doing comedy at this point? Like, how old were you when you? Because we're pretty similar in age, so you're probably.
I started at 26.
Right. Okay.
So from 07 to 010, in the back of my head, I was like, I need to do stand up. And what I do this weird thing where I push myself into a corner and I have to make myself do something.
Oh, I know.
So in 07, I was working at a factory.
So did you do nothing with the specs degree? Did you even pursue
I did
it?
nothing. I pursued it a little bit. I tried to get on a radio
Send
station.
a few.
They tried to send me to Green Bay.
Really?
Like,
Let me
not
ask you-
Green Bay, but like near Green Bay for like working for some radio
But
station.
when you say they tried to send you, let me ask you, like, did you have a job lined up if you had gone, or you mean they just kind of said, hey, we have an opening here, you should try it?
We have an opening and I should try it. And
You
they
know
were
what-
saying like, oh, well, you'd be working Sunday nights, minimum wage. So what they don't tell you, and I'm not shitting on specs. They were fine.
Oh, personally, I'll tell you this. I hear a lot of people shit on specs. I've had a lot of people that I went with.
It's what you make of it. Here's the
Totally.
biggest problem is you don't really get told, oh, well, you're probably gonna be positioned in a sales job. And I had no, because
Okay.
that's where
now
they kept
that
trying
would be
to-
a bummer.
Right, so that's what they kept trying to do. It's like, oh, you should get into sales, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't want to fucking do sales. Like,
Right.
what the hell's the point of doing sales? I'm in sales now, and I don't want to do that, ever.
That's
you know?
funny. So you weren't. They did probably have a job for you, but it was going to be like sales. Ooh,
Yeah.
that would be. Now that I could see
So,
being rough.
really weirdly, I left the factory job, and I worked at Best Buy. So I guess I didn't
I
really...
did know you worked at Best Buy
Yeah,
for
I
a
worked
while
there
at
for
one
Best Buy.
point. So yeah.
And then I moved on. I worked at like a Walmart. I worked at a Radio Shack. And when I was in the Radio Shack, that's when I was just like, I am a 26-year-old that has nothing going for him. I need to do this. So I just signed up for the open mic at,
Where?
at Mark Ridley's. I emailed them, and they told me to call. I called. I got on.
Did you get on the first week, or was
I
it a
got
few
on
weeks?
the first time I called. Because I
Wow.
think because I was new.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time they want to get new guys up
They're
there.
sick of the same people
Yeah,
emailing
they
them
don't
every
wanna see-
week.
Yeah, right. So they were like, cool, all right. So they put me up, and I didn't take any classes or anything. I just went straight to
Did-
stage.
Did you write before, or
Yeah.
write what you thought?
So
How much material did you write for
one
that
of
first
the cool
night?
things, and this is a cool thing about this as well, is at that time podcasts were just starting to take off.
Oh yeah.
Podcasts were like hitting their stride. So I was for probably years listening to podcasts before I'd ever.
Who were you
taken a
listening
stage.
to?
I was listening to Mark Maron. He was not popular at the time, though. He
Right.
was not a popular podcast. There was a comedy podcast that Jimmy Dore hosted called Comedy and Everything Else.
How were you getting the podcast? Because you didn't have did you have a smartphone at this
I
point
had a
and were able to
smartphone.
get
Yep.
them? Okay, no.
And I would look them up and, download them. Whatever.
Okay.
I looked in the comedy section. I didn't know. The Nerdist just started.
Oh wow.
So I was listening to all these things that just started, and that is really what guided me, because they talked about open mics, and and I didn't know any of that.
That's funny.
So these podcasts really helped me. They actually really taught me how to like do comedy and respect the stage, respect open mics, respect the light, respect the host of the open mic, stuff like that. And so when I got to Ridley's, I the only thing I was really worried about was that light. 'Cause,
Right.
that light date, and I didn't want to go over. And I remember when I first walked in, I that big sliding door. I'm
yeah.
sitting in the back, and there's like Mike Bobbitt. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
He's the first person to talk to
Yeah.
me. He was like, "It's your first time," and he was really encouraging and
That's
awesome.
funny.
And he's always been nice to me. And there's a few other people, and
You know if any of them are still around?
I think a lot of them moved.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
like moved like trying
Like
to go for
they're-
comedy, or moved
For comedy. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Mike O'Keefe was there.
Oh, nice.
And a few other people that no one knows.
Gotcha.
Yeah, nobody knows any of us.
Right,
We're all-
I know, but
We're all losers. So.
it is funny when it's you and me, because again, yeah,
Right,
you and
right.
me can sit here and know these people. but-
Exactly. So basically, so I remember walking out that big sliding castle door,
Totally.
because of the comedy castle. I walk on the stage, and I go to do my first joke. And the first joke, I thought I was the most original human. The first joke, I thought I was I thought I was Pryor. I'm like, I'm busting it open.
Right,
The
of
first
course.
joke I remember trying to do was, I hope this first time is a lot like my others. or isn't like my others. You know, it's a
Right. Oh,
yeah, that
the
was classic
awkward
one.
sex joke.
Yeah, the
that,
stupid, terrible. Sex
Oh,
joke. So
yeah.
so I do that. I do it, but I completely blank. I just go first time, and I'm just staring at the crowd, and they're just
How many
looking
people
at
were? Because those open mics at Ridley's can actually do okay.
It was probably about 70 people,
Oh
80
my
people.
god, dude! It's like, whew.
So I'm just sitting there like staring at him, and I'm just like, I forgot what I was gonna say, and I said it just like that. And
Right.
the crowd laughed, and then it, like everything clicked.
Yeah.
I don't really remember it. I remember it a little bit, but I remember having such an adrenaline rush after. I passed out in the bathroom.
Did you really?
I passed out.
Holy
in
shit!
the stall.
That's
Yeah.
funny. Like,
I had such an I could feel it. Like my kidneys were like on overdrive. I could feel it.
so like you walk off stage. Did you go right to the bathroom, or did you kind of sit
I
around a
kind
little
of
bit?
I kind of was standing around and talking to a couple friends that come, which that's
Oh, the worst thing.
By
you
the
can
way,
do.
yeah, if there's anybody that's like listening that wants to do stand up, do not invite friends or family for your first probably 3 or 4 years.
I know, dude.
Because you are not good. I'm like 7 years in. I'm doing this and I'm working, and I still don't think I'm good.
It's
so
yeah. You know what's funny? I moved to Holland for that radio job the one time, and I didn't even tell people. It's just the weirdest thing. You know, I knew I was there working at a radio job, and I was also working at a restaurant.
That's
And-
right. You did work in a radio job.
And
That's
it's
right.
the weirdest thing because when you do comedy, most of us, I'm not going to go down the sad clown or blah blah.
Yeah, I don't
But
buy into that.
But you do. I don't know about you anyway, but you definitely don't when you work at Best Buy go up to everybody and say, "Yeah, I'm doing comedy. I'm doing comedy."
No.
If anything, you kind of don't bring it up. Obviously,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Like,
I brought it up because I was excited. Here's the thing.
well, the first time, of course, you're going to do it.
The reason I brought it up because I didn't have anything else going on. You
Right.
have to understand. Like, it's not like I had any marketable skills.
Right.
So I thought this people because when you're doing comedy, obviously you want attention.
Of
like
course,
that's right. So
dude.
now you're doing it for attention.
There is a reason you're doing
You're going
it.
to tell people, you know. So basically, I would tell people. I'd be like, yeah, I do.
Well, you know
stand-up
that
comedy.
makes sense to me. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess for the story I was going to tell you is like I think once you do it a little bit, you realize that though. So when I was at Holland and working at this radio job and at the restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like telling these people that I do comedy. And then one of them Facebook requested me, like, and then we got to see it. But I'd been doing it for 3 years at that
Right,
point, and I'm
right.
not saying I'm good, but you're better, hopefully. So then they saw me and they were kind of like, well, it wasn't shit. But I'm
Yeah,
like, dude,
that's-
ask the people that don't come anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was going.
Yeah,
with
you
that.
always get people to come out all the time. Like,
Well,
I mean,
because of this
just
show,
just
I'm lucky.
Yeah, but I mean,
But
you're-
but my friends don't come anymore. You know what I mean? Like they don't give a shit.
I'm very lucky. I do have friends that still come out to my shows, and I tell them I'm in the area. I
Yeah,
mean, it's not
good
like
for
a
you,
ton,
man.
but it's like 2 or 3 will scatter.
You're a little
around.
better. I think you're a pretty personal guy, though. I think you seem a little.
I mean, I guess so.
Maybe
That's
not.
all I got.
What was it? Shit? You know, I wish I wouldn't have gone down that route because there was something that when you were telling. Oh, the dude, I cannot leave that at you passing out in the bathroom. So you go to the bathroom.
yeah.
Do you
So,
wake up yourself? Does someone wake you up?
So I sat on the toilet seat, but not like on the seat part. I sat
Right.
on the lid, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like in pain. I can remember it to this day. I only had this feeling 2 other times. So yeah, I'm sitting on the lid, and next thing I know, I look up, and probably 10 or 11 minutes had passed by.
Wow.
And I'm like, holy, how did that happen? You know?
That's crazy.
And yeah, that's how I knew I kind of was hooked.
Did you?
And it's really funny because you're always chasing that. You're chasing that because that's such a high. Think about having such a high that you pass out. That's what it is.
Right. No, you're right. I mean, obviously, same thing with me whenever I started. You know, I really want. It's funny because we have kind of a similar story, but literally like opposite of
Right.
what our main goal was. Like when you say you're 25 and you didn't know what you're doing, I had graduated from Specs right around the same time you did. But I was in this group of friends. We've never really talked about this, but I was in this group of friends trying to be jackass again, believe it or not. And
Oh yeah.
I
think we all went through that one.
well, I had a friend that was going to video editing, and he had been. Long story short, we had reasons to believe that we were a little better than just some kids. Like,
Right.
we had really good cameras. A kid who he did editing. We had kind of just some reasons to believe. So when I left Specs, I made this choice to go after this video thing, thinking I could get into radio anytime.
Right.
And those videos didn't work out. And then literally at the same age when you're talking 25, 26, I was living in my buddy's house in his basement, working at Meyer and hating my
Yeah,
life.
the
Going,
Meijer.
I wanted to do radio. You wanted to do comedy. and I messaged actually the guy who runs this podcast and on Facebook, and I got my internship at the Riff. And that
that's awesome that
what,
he just did that. Like
right.
That's so cool.
Right. But it's kind of just funny when you said that because we were literally at the same age when we were both like, dude, I had this one dream. What am I doing? Why am I not?
Yeah.
So it really just there was a podcast that really got you the kick in the butt listening to podcasts?
It just taught me what to do, and it showed me the rules, because there's rules. It's not real rules. I'm not saying like you don't have to follow rules. Stand-up is about breaking rules.
Of course.
The rules of respecting humans, like that's all basically. Like, hey, you're basically on a job interview when you're at an open mic.
Of course. I don't get, you tend to do this, and I'm not making towards any comedians, but you tend to do this, and I try to, and like one of those rules to me is like staying after. It amazes me sometimes that if you can, and I know some of us, dude, you got to work in the morning, you're doing this for free, but I always felt like, dude, not that I necessarily need these strangers to come up to me and tell me how funny I am, but you're trying to sell yourself, and when you say it's a job interview,
right?
Like I think that if you can, you do want to stay, and hopefully these people come up and say, man, you were funny, and
it's
Or I don't know, what's your thought on that? Do you think it's as important? I think
I do. I mean, I try to stay after as much as possible.
And if just the other comimics too, by the way.
Right, I just love hanging out with the other comics.
And supporting them,
and we have such a wide state.
Right.
That, by the way, this isn't. Not one time have I made a joke or felt funny.
I'm sorry,
and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to. Was I supposed to like event, or is this just one-on-one conversation?
This is kind of what this is actually going better than I thought it was going to go. To be honest with you,
I wasn't supposed to.
No, I'm not.
This isn't going to be like one of those things where I come in and you're like, "What's your bits like?" And you start like going, "So Wes, I heard you like to get your ex-girlfriends pregnant or something like that."
Fuck no, dude.
And I start doing my stupid riffs.
No, fuck no, dude. I did not want that. Coming from someone who does it myself, the idea, like, be funny now.
Yeah.
My thought kind of was, and I know it's weird how we're all.
I didn't mean to sideswipe it.
Oh no, you're all right, dude. We're all. I don't know if we're stealing. It's always hard because all ideas are kind of done at this point.
Right.
But I like talking to other comedians. It really is something.
You just wanted to talk to other comedians.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk to other, kind of like.
That's what I've been trying to tell you guys. This is the only way Eric can talk to comedians. It's just the only way you can do
it. Yeah, they won't.
They won't talk to him otherwise.
Dude,
so he was like, "I'm going to trap them in a room."
You know what's
and make
funny?
Them have a conversation.
You say that, and you and me have always been pretty good. I'm really socially awkward, like more so than I think some people.
Wait
realize.
a minute.
I know.
Get out of here.
No, I know. But I swear, I even feel uncomfortable with other comedians even ones I like, because I have a thing in my head where I start talking to some of you at an open mic, and after like 2 minutes, I start to think, oh my God, they don't want to talk to me anymore. I'm being stupid. I mean, they're funnier than me. They're better than me anyway. I don't get to do this as much. These guys are. And so I actually do get really weird, because I love talking to comedians, but I have such an awkwardness where I.
Yeah, but nobody has nobody has bad words to say.
I know. I get that. It's my own shit.
Right.
Whatever. So you start doing comedy at Ridley's, and how soon after that? And by the way, when you say Ridley's, did you just look up? Because I guess this is internet age, so yours pretty easy.
So I'm like, where do I do an open mic in Detroit?
And so how soon after that are you doing it pretty regular?
So the first time you do that thing, and I didn't do well.
Right.
And so you do that thing where you just take a couple months off. A lot of comics do that, and I did that. And then I think it was in January, I started going to like the New Way Bar in Ferndale on the Monday nights. And then somebody told me, hey, they do another open mic in O'Mara's.
Yeah.
On Berkeley on Thursdays, which they don't do anymore, but at the time they were doing. And then it sort of built from there. And then on Tuesdays when Joey's was around in Livonia, I'd go to Joey's. And then Wednesday nights was Ridley's, or somebody else had random open mics like Sidney Smith.
Right.
There was always just a way to get on a stage.
It's funny. I don't know how people did it before Facebook, by the way. No offense. But
right.
Before now we have MCN, Michigan Comics Network,
the
and stuff.
Comedy Network.
And stuff like that. Like, dude, for real. I'm talking like in the 80s, early 90s. Like,
well, in the 80s, how they did comedy was cocaine.
Right.
They just did lots of cocaine. They ended up places. It was
maybe
all magical.
That could be.
It's teleportation dust, as I like to call it.
Right. No, you're right, though. It's interesting how. And so you were hooked right away, but you didn't kind of took a little time off.
Yeah, because I didn't think I was good. Also, I didn't think that, like, there was other open mics, so I'm like, I thought I already blew my wad.
Gotcha.
So basically, I took a couple months off, and then January I started doing it regularly, and then there was a contest in Port Huron.
Okay.
For like you can open up for Ralphie May at the McMorran Arena. And this was in 2011. And
where was the contest at? Was it in Port
this
Huron? This
place called the
it?
Zebra Bar, which is actually where I'm headed now to host trivia. Because I host trivia. Don't worry about it. Don't come see me.
Come on. You gotta cheat. You gotta.
Oh, yeah, no, I guess I'll plug that. I do this awesome thing for a company called My Trivia Live where I help run some shows and I host some shows, too.
Where at?
Different places.
Okay, so you kind of move around.
Monday nights at Danny's in Ferndale at 8 o'clock. Tuesdays in Chesterfield at Rosie O'Grady's. Thursdays at the Zebra Bar in Port Huron and the Raven on Sunday nights. And
My trivia. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I jumped on that. My Trivia Live's cool, man. I used to be on a team that was out in the Highland area. I think it's fun, dude.
Right. No, I love it.
I mean, it's just nice to get out for the people. You have a few drinks. It's very casual.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's anyone can win, kind of, because at the end they kind of do that thing with the
it's Final Jeopardy and stuff. So
right.
That's how I kind of like. It helps me sustain while I do stand up.
How long have you been doing My Trivia?
Oh, that was probably 2014 or 2013. 2013, I started that.
Do you have a quote-unquote normal job right now?
No.
That's
All I do
awesome.
is I do trivia and I do comedy, and that's it.
And you live, I don't know do you care if I say the city that you live in?
Yeah, I live in Royal Oak. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So, man, you're doing pretty good then, huh? That's not
I
too
do
bad.
well. Yeah, no, but I mean, it's a lot of hard work and a lot of not paying bills on time. But it's
But dude,
that's everybody.
Better than some of the you
Yeah,
talk about working at
I
Walmart.
don't hate myself, and I think that's like the main goal is for me not to hate myself.
Well, you worked at Walmart, so I mean, it's got to be a little better than working at Walmart.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely better than working at Walmart.
With doing trivia, how flexible is that as far as hitting open mics? Or you?
It can be a little daunting, but luckily I have a lot of understanding. I know everybody.
Well, you've been doing it enough
scene,
too,
yeah.
probably. So you probably build up.
So if you know enough people in the scene, you can just like be like, hey, I'm gonna be at your open mic, but I'm gonna be a little late. Like Dan and Mark at Max and Lansing,
of course,
are so cool about that. They just let me come in at 10:30 because they know that's the time I can get in.
Dude, if you're right, and that's the reality. Yeah, if they're
and
gonna
tell
work
me,
with you, if you know
you do the Max in Lansing.
the best.
Is it not the best?
Dude,
and I don't know if you get people to come out because
I finally had someone come out last week. A kid that listens that goes to state finally came out.
Okay.
But I talk about it all the time. If I could do Max every time, I would be like I'd be like Jerry Seinfeld. I mean, maybe not that big, but you know what I mean. Like, dude, it makes you feel. I told a story last time I was at Max, and it freaking killed.
Right.
Freaking killed. I went the next day.
But that's probably because you're better.
I know. Well, I did the exact same thing the next day at some open mic in Ypsilanti.
Ypsilanti. Oh, okay. Well,
and it was terrible.
Crossroads, the Crossroads bar.
Yes.
That was like their first time. Ypsilanti, you know.
I know, but there is something about Max though that has this like, dude. Here's the thing. Like the last time I was going up there, I was gonna try to do actual jokes.
Yeah.
And on the way there, I was like, no. What? I just get up there and tell stories now because I've
Right.
had some ridiculous situations.
And that's like comedy. That's comedy. Though.
I love
story
it.
A story can be comedy.
But story comedy, I'm starting to get more where I'm telling stories. But the problem I'm finding with that is that if you're not at a place where people are there for comedy, storytelling at a empty bar on a Tuesday night.
Then then don't do those empty bars.
I know.
And I
know.
encourage don't. If you're a storytelling comic and that's not your, go to some storytelling places. Go to some of the Moth stuff. Just tell them like, look, I'm a comic, but I have stories. I want to work on them.
No, you're right.
It might be funny and humorous, whatever.
That's something I'm totally working on right now. So you were. Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, you go ahead. You have a question.
I was just. No, because if you wanted to say something about that, I was going to bring you back to the contest you were going to.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that. I have terrible ADD, so. Basically, yeah. So this content, I remember I had to call in a radio station and do my dumb bits.
So you called
I
into
called into this radio station in Port Huron, and
now I want to ask this: when you say you called in the station, was it like you emailed in and then they told you were going to call up, or
nope,
was it
they
like
said
just call
at this time? I must have been like the only person to call.
Well, think about
because like I called and like nobody was, and I
heard
heard
the worst setting for
and
comedy.
By the way,
to be on the phone and not have people in front
I'm
of you.
going to say this: it was the first time though that I thought, oh, I actually have bits because I listened to the other people that were trying to do it,
and it was terrible.
I mean, it was really bad. But you know what's really funny? At that contest was Heather Kozlowski.
Wow,
you know Heather?
She was, she was my teacher at Specs.
Yeah, she was mine as well. Zach Stein, who ended up winning it.
Yeah.
Michael Sove, Kent Tucker was
Wow.
there, and but they were all newish too.
It's funny, like you said earlier, when
Nate Ambrister.
when we name names and these people don't necessarily know these names. Those names to us, to me, are, I mean, you just hit some big names to me. Some people that are,
some
I think
guys
are very
that are
funny.
really funny. Those are the ones I remember. And so,
So you got on, so you had the call, or you called and that was a contest and they were part of,
and so then you go and you perform comedy.
So a certain people, you called in, then a certain amount of people were chosen out of those callers to go to perform the comedy.
So they instantly put me in, so I was in. But then I remember, okay, so a few things I did that are faux pas, and you already know. I held the mic like this,
Right.
I had one joke at the time that did well, and the rest of it just fell flat. And by the way, the entire audience is made up of my family and friends. And I still lost.
Was it a bring me kind of
It
situation?
was.
Oh, no.
I lost a contest. I was so not good.
So a bring me contest, if anyone doesn't know, is like what they're trying to do
bringer
is
show.
you bring people, they're going to vote for you.
Right.
And hypothetically, it's supposed to be the more, if you bring 50 people, you win.
Right. And so it's really funny. So
No
I'm doing,
offense, not to-
so I'm doing my set, and I can somewhat hear the comics talk, and they're like, "That is terrible.
Oh, no.
That is awful."
Oh, no.
And they were all right,
And
by
they
the
try,
way.
but comics try to usually give each other the benefit of the doubt. We try to
But I
kinda,
was
like,
new,
yeah.
so they're just like, "Who is this?
Who the fuck is this guy?
Who is this dickhead?
How did he get onto this part of the...
Right.
Like, who did he beat?
Yeah,
No offense.
right, yeah. But yeah. So then I was feeling terrible. I called into Walmart. I just started at Walmart at the time.
Yeah.
And I called in. That was like my first week there.
Oh,
And I
man.
lost so terribly. I wasn't even in the
man.
top 10.
And then when you called in, was that the reason, or did you just say you were sick?
Yeah, no, I was like, yeah, I'm sick, and nobody
Okay.
knew. Actually, I think a couple people knew, but they didn't care. They were
Right.
like, yeah, he wants to do this. Let him do it.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I just remember that was like, I almost quit.
Yeah.
I think after that, because I thought.
How
like,
many
I'm
times have you
terrible.
almost quit, for real?
After that, never again.
Really?
Every other time I had been plowing through.
What's the longest streak you've gone without doing it since you really were doing it?
You know,
I mean, have you taken a
honestly,
month off? Have you...
I will do. This is what I'll do, because right now I'm doing like a lot of paid work.
Okay.
But it's not bragging or anything. It's just I'm just doing
Dude,
a lot of paid work. So
it's just funny, real quick, not to interrupt you there, but for people that don't do comedy,
Yeah.
and especially do it to the point where you and me have known each other a few years, it's weird. I'm not saying I'm bragging. I'm not bragging. But
no, I really am
there's-
not. Like I'm just saying, like now I'm getting work, so it's nice.
But it just seems like there's always this need to kind of like say you're doing it, but also on the same hand say that you're not necessarily mean you're killing it.
right, I'm not like
I'm making some money, but not a lot.
I'm doing well. I'm
But
doing
that's
okay,
awesome, dude,
you know?
obviously. And one thing I've always said about you, and I'm going to let you finish this, but one thing I've always said about you, and I've said it to your face, I think, even one time, is that not to get on anyone specific, but it can be a very weird world where we're all kind of pulling to each other, but also a lot of like, well, why is he blah, blah, blah? Why is he getting this? And one thing I've always liked about you is you seemed very genuine, happy when other comics do something.
I hate when other comics get things I don't. No,
Right.
I hate when other comedians, because there's so much room.
Right.
People think there's no room, but in the comedy world, there's room. There's
Right.
always room. I've been fortunate enough to get things in comedy that I never thought I would get, and I think that if I see other people, other friends of mine that are doing comedy get things, why am I going to be mad about
Right.
that?
Like, you'll laugh at comics, too. Like, I'm sorry, the one thing and again, not everyone's funny. It doesn't mean I have to go to an open mic and laugh at everybody's jokes, but
Right.
I have no problem laughing.
I love laughing.
I know, right? That's
That's
why
why I
you're
got
there.
into comedy.
Right.
Like, so there's a snootiness. Sometimes there is like there's a arrogance. So there's an arrogance to comedy.
Of course, 'cause-
people are doing this because they're for ego a lot of the time.
Well, I
And-
said it to somebody recently where they said, like, they said, I was telling them, like, I have a lot of insecurities, but you must have some level of ego to do this because you think you deserve to get paid to do it. You're doing something and you think you deserve to get paid.
So if any comedians ended up listening to this and you're like one of those people that just cross your arms and you don't try to even watch the comics, or you just don't laugh at everybody, just stop it. Just remember that you can still laugh.
You're doing something that the purpose is to laugh.
Yeah, right. You want people to laugh, and you should laugh too. Like, just enjoy the show. If it's not funny, don't laugh, but just enjoy it while
don't
you're
get me
there.
wrong. I'm not saying I go to comics, every comic I just start laughing at to give them a fake laugh.
There's a lot of shitty comics. Like, for instance, there's a guy, Eric. Terrible. Can't stand him. Every time I watch him, I'm like, why is he doing this? Get off of the stage, you son of a bitch.
I hear you, man. No, you know what? I go to Max. I know, got it. Anybody does Max, I think it becomes
This is a free plug for Max.
I know, dude.
Max Comedy, Lansing. Go every single Monday night at
10 p.m.?
9:30.
Oh, yeah, they say 9:30.
9:30 because you want to get a good seat because it gets pretty filled up there. And they have cheap beer. They have PBR and Miller High Life on draft.
Right.
So, I mean, how can you not want to go to a bar that sells that?
Right. Plus, you should support Dan Curry. Just got married, so he needs this thing to
Well,
work,
he got
man.
engaged.
Okay, engaged. Sorry.
Yeah. He just got engaged, so congrats, Dan, if you're not listening to this.
But the thing about
Mexico right now.
Max, what I was going to say, though, is it tends to, there is a lot of good people there. And, dude, like the last time I was there in February, whatever, I don't remember what date. But, dude, I literally spent the whole night just laughing. And I'm like, how awesome is this?
And they put on the
here?
lineups they put on are just tremendous.
Right. It's a real show in reality.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bottom line to me.
Right.
But anyway, where were we?
We're talking about like the first time or like
contest.
So then
I'm sorry. I know I'm jumping around here.
No, it's all right. If you have ADD and listening to this is your dream.
I know, right?
Yeah. So I mean, from there, I have been doing it ever since. I haven't stopped. And,
Let me. How often do you write, by the way?
I'm a weird person with writing. I'm about to sound really. Not arrogant.
I can tell you. Okay.
So how I write is basically things happen to me, and then I just kind of think about it, and I get a nugget of like a line, or and then I build around it, and I'll go on stage with this thought, and I'll just start talking about it.
Right.
And that's how my editing works too.
Gotcha.
If it doesn't
So
land,
you don't actually. Do you ever actually sit down and write? Do you have a? I mean, I'm sure you have a
I
notebook.
used to.
But
I really wish I would, but I don't.
Okay.
I actually just mostly.
Wow.
I talk it out.
But you're doing it a lot, though. That's the thing. You're doing it a lot. The reality is, as much as you write,
right?
I'm having that issue right now where, honestly, I'm doing this podcast, which takes a lot of my time, and I have a car that's starting to bad miles, and I'm just in a weird place where I'm doing a lot that I don't necessarily. I know it's bad, but I don't necessarily want to drive an hour to an empty bar on a Wednesday night. I know that's bad. Because we're all supposed to just be practicing all the time. So my point is, like, sometimes, like, I want to write, and then I'm like, I'm not practicing enough to even write this. So you're getting up enough that it's not as bad that you're not.
I get up no matter what. I'm getting up on a Friday, Saturday. I'm getting up on Wednesdays every Wednesday because I host a show.
Of course. Do you do any of it with my trivia? Do you try?
No, no.
Not like doing comedy, but if you have an idea, will you ever try
my trivia live and my stand-up worlds are separate.
Okay.
I try to keep them separate because I don't want that ever to reflect on the company.
I gotcha. Makes perfect sense.
What I say in my comedy is all my opinions, has nothing to do with them.
Right.
So.
Do you? No, I understand.
And I want to mean that because I like those people a lot. I don't want them to ever like come down on me for this stuff.
So you say you kind of don't really per se write anymore necessarily, right? Do
I just write a
down?
couple lines. Like for instance, I'm gonna go through my phone real quick.
Okay.
I'll show you what I mean.
I'm weird about it because I'm really still 6 years in. I'm still having a brutal time with punchlines. And so I go to Starbucks and sit there and try. And I have to listen to like punk rock. I'll play like 90s pop punk in my head and just try to do something. But it doesn't usually work.
So like, I have
we're getting some new ideas here.
They're not really new. I've been doing them now. I have 300 pounds, which is a joke about I hit 300 pounds, and that's how I knew what to do to lose weight.
Gotcha.
So I'll just write that. Niece and nephew, kids, swear jar, clean your house to find money. That's an old one. Conspiracy theories. Like, for instance, this is just a line that says, West Virginia crystal meth joke.
Nice, dude.
So
you know what? So let me ask then. You don't have a real job, technically. You're doing my trivia, and you're doing comedy.
Yep.
So you don't, per se, sit down and write like I do. What do you do all day?
This is how I write. This is part of the writing process, I guess, in a way, is I watch a lot of news. I read a lot of news.
Really?
I probably read like 3 different newspapers a day.
Wow. Like actual read, or are you going online? Okay.
Yeah, and I have like I have a New York Times subscription,
Nice.
and I have and I watch CNN, and I watch BBC News, and that's about it.
That's great, dude. Honestly, I have so much. I'm not just saying that that's awesome that you're able in a position where you're kind of at least you're making,
And I read a shit ton.
What do you read?
Books about comedy, obviously.
Really?
I like
Well, I guess that
biographies.
shouldn't shock me. Never mind.
Anything about a person's life. I love reading.
What's the last one you've read?
The last one I read, The Comedians, which is a book that came out, I think, last year.
Okay.
It's basically about the history of comedy. It's
Gotcha.
really good, and it's really sad and really fun.
Have you been watching comedians on CNN?
Yeah, I'm pretty
Or
excited.
not this comedians, the history of comedy. Yeah.
The first one was really good. I love the women in comedy one, but I thought it was kind of ironic that they had only one show dedicated to women in comedy when
Right.
they're trying to celebrate women in comedy.
Yeah.
And the fact that they had a whole show dedicated to just women when they could have just, splice them into the everyday world as if, there are equals, but they didn't do it.
I think that's a weird thing that we're kind of going through right now, though, as a society where I agree with you. I don't think why even make it women in comedy.
Yeah,
Why not just literally have them be throughout the
yeah,
thing?
they
like
should have been. There is much.
But don't you? Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead. There is much a part of history as Carlin and so you think Carlin. Joan Rivers is right there.
Right.
You don't think of her any less than George
Of
Carlin.
course, dude.
Or
No.
Richard Pryor. Then you got Moms Mabley, and then you know what I mean. Like you have. You can't
I think it's a weird thing, though. I think there's a weird thing where CNN might feel like if they didn't do that, then people will say, "How come you didn't
talk about it?
Just women?"
Yeah.
But you're right. In my opinion, dude, they're funny. Like, why even treat them like it's almost treated like it's a separate person, like
a separate species of thing.
They're not.
Yeah, right.
Funny is funny. If this girl's funny and this guy isn't, then that's funny.
Yeah, and I always feel bad not feel bad is the wrong word, but I empathize with a lot of because they have to go through a different.
Oh, I
thing than
know.
us. It's not only just because they have to deal with comics that are dudes that are just blinded by the fact that they look like me,
Right.
But they also have to deal with audience members coming up to them.
Of course. Dude.
Oh, you're pretty funny for a girl. Like,
Well-
I can't even. You know how many faces I'd have punched by now?
Right.
That's how you know.
Well, not just that. To me, I think it would just it wouldn't even just be that. Guys hitting on them, having to deal with guys maybe telling them they are not that they're not funny, but you know what I mean. Just like, oh, you were so funny. Let me buy you a drink. You know what I mean? Like, really
it's all
creepy. Dudes.
Yeah, it's always creepy undertones.
If they're any form of good looking, some people might just. I can see people just going like, well, this hot chick's gonna, and it's like, dude, she's just funny as
and then
funny.
they get even if some of the lady comics like get fired, it's always because they've slept with somebody. It's always the worst. Like, it's just like. I can't believe we're still doing it.
I know, dude.
It's just, anyway.
Like,
I didn't mean to get off on that.
No,
tangent,
you're right, dude.
but
When I go
it's
to
something I get mad about. So.
No, when I go to a show, again, when we were talking about laughing at comedians, if it's funny, it's funny. If it's not, it's not. Samantha Rieger, obviously. Rieger. Sorry, obviously hilarious. There's this girl at Max that I've never seen other than Max. I've seen her the last 2 times that I've been there. She happens to be up, and I don't even want to describe her because I don't know her name. But she has had me almost in tears.
Laughing so hard?
Yeah,
we'll talk. I don't know who that is, but we'll talk about it off the
that's
thing.
fine.
Yeah.
But my point is, like, whatever. It's too bad.
Funny is funny, and it should always be like that. Anyway,
so
we went off on a long tangent.
I know, and you know what? We've already been talking here for a decent amount of time, so I probably won't. I won't do too. I don't know. I don't know how long we can go. I guess we can definitely go as long as I want. What's your favorite part of comedy? Would you say?
Right now, well, there's the stage is the easy answer.
Right.
And
of course.
I love being on stage, but I think it's the camaraderie after shows.
Totally.
And I've made so many friends. Like I just like hanging out and going to different like housewarming parties, or
right?
Like going and like just getting coffee with comics and just talking, shooting the shit, talking about life events. I love doing that stuff.
It's totally when I said it, and not that all comics were dorks, or not that all comics have social or sad or depressed. But, for me, high school is what it is for a lot of people. You have some friends, you have some whatevers, and then you go away. I have met so many more friends that I'm legitimately feel connected to. I love seeing them through comedy. It's absolutely...
So, yeah, that'd probably be the best part.
What's the worst?
The worst part of comedy?
Other than there's a few obvious choices.
A lot of people want to say travel. I don't even mind the travel.
You just recently drove all the way to Iowa, right?
Iowa?
Am I wrong?
Yeah, I went on a Friday. I drove to Iowa, and then the next day I was in Ohio. So I drove 8 hours and then 8 hours.
And it's funny because obviously on social networking you're joking like, oh, you said something like this is living the dream, driving to Iowa. But really, dude, when you're doing it, aren't you really like, oh my God, I'm doing this?
It beats digging ditches.
Right?
That's all it does. Yep.
I mean, it's, I think too, like, I feel like even some of the things I don't get paid to do. I did one in Belding, a contest in Belding.
Oh, that's at
the golf course and stuff, and you get a free room, you get a free meal, and I'm like, dude, it's somewhere I would never have been. I'd sat there, I'm like, this is pretty fucking cool.
My parents didn't travel at all, so that is very true. About I never thought I'd be in Iowa ever. Why would I ever go there?
And isn't it? I mean, yeah, and who would ever? No,
who
would ever go to Iowa?
Yeah. I can see why, like, if you lived in Iowa your whole life, why you would think the Earth is flat, though.
I saw it.
Like, I can honestly think that. That was my only one canned joke. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have I shouldn't have done that. I'm too honest at times. I should have let you.
What do you mean too honest? You should always be honest.
Well, I should have just let you have that as you said it. But I saw you did put it on Twitter or Facebook.
Yeah, I put it on Facebook. But it's also true. That place is weird.
No, there's a lot of those places. But I just like
a lot of fun, but weird.
How did it go?
It was fine.
I saw the picture. It looked like there was a lot of people.
There was like. No, that was the next night.
Oh.
So in Iowa, there was about 30 people. Okay, so this is a fun thing.
How did you get the Iowa show?
Through a booker. I don't want to go through.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. That's fine.
Through a booker, booked me for it. But I don't want to blow up her spot.
I understand.
She's gonna get 14 emails.
Right.
Wesley Ward said.
Yeah, you'll just tell me off stage or off the air, right?
Yeah,
just
whatever. So basically, I just went there and we were competing with a local theater that had opened up. So we kind of got
like a local talkie
movie theater.
The movie theater
talkie theater? No, it was a silent film theater. Eric, Jesus.
The talkies have come to Iowa.
Yeah, they finally got talkies there. They had a movie theater that just opened up there, and we were competing with that.
Damn, that's tough, dude.
Screwed.
What was playing? Do you know? Was it multiplex?
Logan, and Lego Batman.
Oh shit!
So we're up against two tough, and we had about 35, 40 people there, and it's like banquet hall that holds about 100, but it wasn't too bad. The crowd was good, and I made money, and I got to drive.
Did you stay that night, or is this or did you do it?
I had to stay that night.
Was it
It was really weird.
Was it one of those? Was it a comedian condo or was it?
It was
a hotel. Or?
I haven't slept in a lot of comedy condos. I haven't done a lot of comedy club work yet.
Gotcha.
Mostly, I'm doing a lot of one-nighters and stringing them together to make a nice little, like a little week vacation type thing.
Yeah.
But it was a nice little hotel room. It was actually really cool. And then the next night, I was in Ohio. And it was really funny because it was with Mike Stanley, who's a beast, a monster.
Yeah.
One of the 5 best comics I've ever worked with, quite frankly.
Nice.
And he was headlining. I was opening for him. And we ended up there was this bed and breakfast that they set us up in. This 100-year-old lady that was like running it, and she couldn't even get up the stairs to show us where our rooms were. It was so terrible. So we ended up both just driving back that night because it was like.
But you did have this
less than 2-hour drive. So.
Gotcha. Well, drove. Oh, that one was from Ohio.
Yeah. So I drove from Iowa to Ohio, and then Ohio back to Michigan.
When you say you didn't drive back, so you obviously checked into the bed and breakfast.
Yeah. I checked in because I had to take a shower because I had just gotten into Ohio at 7:30.
Gotcha.
So I forgot that time change happens.
Oh shit!
So I left at like 10.
Oh, thinking
and it's
that...
an 8-hour drive, so I'm thinking, well, I'll get there around 6, be able to chill out, and then I realized.
When did you realize on the trip that I need to go?
When I realized about 4 o'clock when the clock went from 3 to 4, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm gonna get there just in time. So I checked in so I could take a quick shower, and then I drove to the place. Luckily, it was a minute away.
So you didn't like put your stuff in the room, really? You kind of.
I did, and I was gonna stay, and then I got done with the show, and I'm like, I'm not sticking around here. I'm going to get accosted by a little old lady.
Not to be weird, but it's kind of got to be bad. Not bad.
It wasn't bad. It just was creepy.
Uncomfortable. Yeah. To the point that you would forego that to go home.
I'm staying in an old lady's house. I don't know. I don't want to be in there.
Right. That's funny, dude.
Imagine if I got like a Tinder match or something. It's just like, you got to come to this
don't worry.
B&B I'm staying at.
Gladys will let you in the door. Imagine the level of judgment that would happen
exactly.
there. But... real quick, speaking of Tinder, or not Tinder, but Twitter and stuff, do you write, I know you're on Twitter a lot, and Tinder probably, I'm just kidding, but do you use that a lot? Now, like you said, you don't write in a traditional
Twitter,
sense.
I use it here and there.
To create jokes?
Yeah,
or
like I'll, at Westward Comedy.
Right.
Yeah, I'll write down jokes there. and I won't use it really to create for my shows, but sometimes that happens.
Do you like social media actually, or do you do it because you have to?
Here's the thing. Facebook is cool for like connecting and like talking to people and stuff. If I could get rid of it, I would. I just think it's kind of a burden on me,
dude.
And all my thoughts are constantly going out there, so I just don't want that anymore.
No, I've said it for about this show that I do. If I didn't want to do comedy anymore, if tomorrow I woke up and didn't want to do radio or podcasting and didn't want to do comedy, I'd have a Facebook to have one.
Right.
But dude, why would I need to be on Instagram,
Exactly.
Twitter? Do I really need to be posting pictures? Do I need to be? I'm watching the Pistons game and F you, whatever.
Right.
So, well, let me ask you. At this point in your life now, you're actually doing well enough that again we've discussed that you're not working a shitty job. Now that you've done comedy to this point, I'm sure you had a goal when you started. I'm gonna be whatever. Now, where you are now, what's the difference between what do you want out of comedy compared to when you started? You know what I mean? Like,
okay,
where do you see yourself?
I had delusions of grandeur when I first started.
Everybody
comedy.
does. You couldn't do it if you didn't want it, right? Nobody would do it thinking, I want to be an open micer my whole life.
Yeah, but now what I wanted out of comedy is I wanted to be like the theater guy. I wanted to be able to play theaters. And I'm not going to say that can't still happen, but I think maybe.
You're my age, right? Or ish? How old are you?
32.
I just turned 33, so yeah.
All right. I'll be 33 soon. So I want to be a theater guy. But my ultimate goal is just to be a headlining club comic. That's all I really want to be. And I got the time now, but it's it's still, I got to still prove myself in the feature world.
Right.
And as soon as I can, I've been getting I want to get to the point where like when I'm featuring, like the people that I run in the rooms have to email the bookers and be like, hey, that guy should have been headlining.
Right.
So.
That's awesome, man. I don't know, dude. This is going to be the more awkward part for me because I don't know how to wrap things up. I've never really done something that's but that's awesome, dude. So that's something that you how far away do you think you're from that? Would you, if you had to make, I know you don't know, but do you 5 years?
Probably 5-10 years.
That's awesome though, dude.
I'll be in my 40s when I start really headlining, I think.
That's great, man. Well, hey, dude, I really want to thank you for coming here, being the first guy doing this with me, just because
no problem.
I know it's always hard to be the first, I feel like, for both of us, because I'm kind of learning how to do this, and you are too. You're at Lynch. You run Lynch's.
I will run Lynch's. Does this get put up like today?
It's literally going to be posted up very soon.
Cool.
So
within
half an hour.
I guess I'll do some.
Yeah, do it all
promotion.
Right now, man.
Saturday I'll be in K-Pac at the Holly Meadows in K-Pac, Michigan. That's at 8:30.
Where's K-Pac? Not to be weird,
near like Lapeer and stuff.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys get listeners out there.
We absolutely do.
All right, cool. Well, if anybody's out in K-Pac and want to see me, very good show. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then next March 18th, I'll be at Laugh Tracks in Novi.
Nice.
For the Untitled Comedy Project by J.R. Williams. That'll be Laugh Tracks Novi, 8:30 as well. And then the big one, this is the one I want everyone, if you're out there and you want to come see me and you want to be like, what's this guy about? I'll be at the the Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, April 6th through the 8th. I'm opening up for Mike Kaplan, who is hilarious. Like one of the best. He's got a special on Netflix. Check that out and come see me April 6th through the 8th at Comedy Castle in Royal Oak.
That's awesome, man. For real, congrats, dude.
Thanks.
It's really cool to be able to know. So, like, you know what's weird for again to like do what we do or what I'm trying to do for sure is like I know what it means to be able to say. I mean, you got to do Iowa, so you're obviously you're getting some shit.
Guys, I've been to places like West Virginia, so you know, kind of making it.
But I know what it means to like for someone to get to say you got a weekend at Ridley's doing something like that. You know what I mean?
The only other place I want to do is Ann Arbor Showcase now.
Yeah,
that's my only other weekend place. So.
For sure. All right. Well, thanks, man. I think this
thanks, Eric.
went all right.
Appreciate it.
And then I'll just say to anybody watching this, I don't know who's going to be next or when the next one is going to be, but I'm going to try to do this weekly. I believe actually Lloyd Dig Johnson is going to be the next one in here.
Nice.
In a week. So, all right, that was talking comedy or whatever with Big E. Thanks or something.